Start the motor. Listen how quiet it runs. And now, the lamp.
Worried about caffeine? Hate the taste of decaf? Well, try new Virtual Coffee. Just pop on the Virtual Life headset, sit back and relax with a hot steaming cup of Virtual Java. That's good. And I love it with a virtual cigarette as well. And so does my wife. Don't you, honey?
Watching movies is really something most of us do. That's right. But there's a lot of detail that goes into film that we barely notice. Before we start making video stories, we need to learn to read movies.
That's good. All right, fellas, we're going for a take. Now settle down. Freeze off back there, please. No walking around. Close that big door over there, will you, please?
Dave, you ready up there?
Ready, Bob?
All I'm asking you is to let me know what's going on. No names, no places, just what?
You know, Granny, there just ain't no way of saying how good a Winston is. You gotta smoke one to find out.
Well, I can say this. Winston tastes mighty good.
Like a cigarette should.
This week we look at how it's done. Examine film genres too.
And now, all that's needed is an audience.
And this will get you ready to make your own next week. Here comes somebody else. Just in time. Just in time. Let's see. Welcome to... Here's my sound system. That song we love so well. Welcome to the ds106 show, where I'm coming to you from the past into the future, hence the retro look. It's 1964 here, and the internet has just been invented. You didn't know it was invented that early, but everything is happening right now, and ds106 is definitely the future of the internet, and that's how we project it. And so welcome to the weekly show where we kind of talk about what's going on, and we have some guests and some students. So why don't I turn it over to my guest here and say hello to your international crowd listening in. Hello, Ben Rhines.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Am I introducing myself? Hi, I'm Ben.
Where are you? Is that a different location? Are you in your house, or are you at work? Or
it is a different location. Yes, I'm in my secret underground bunker. No, I'm at school.
Okay.
I'm at school, and I just spent a lot of hours working with some high school algebra students to create some video story problems. So they're having a lot of fun doing that. And yes, so here I am at school now, just chiming in, helping out
That's gonna be
where
cool.
I can.
And I have to tell you, if I haven't told you already, I showed some of your story problems to some fifth grade teachers I met with at Yokohama International School in Japan.
Oh, cool.
They were really interested. I hope maybe they contact you. I know they like the idea, and I can't remember which videos I showed, but
Sure.
just the idea about students producing them really jazzed them.
I like it. I always love it because you never know. It's like ds106. You know, you go ahead and you create the model and say, here's what I was thinking, and then the students throw it right back at you, and you're like, oh, well, we've got 30 different ideas, and you're like, awesome, let's run with them.
All right, so and then shoot over to Daniel.
I'm Daniel. I'm also in my secret underground bunker with a window.
Wow.
I am a ds106 student from a previous semester, and I'm just here to have fun.
That's allowed.
I would hope so.
And Tiffany, first time hanger-outer.
It is, yeah, my first time. I wasn't smart enough to go to my secret underground bunker. My room. That is not my poster, by the way. It's Big Time Rush, but it belongs to my roommate. I am not a rusher, I think is what they call themselves. Yeah, I promise I'm not. I'm much more into, you know, Lord of the Rings, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
I'm from the past. I don't know these groups, so I'm just way out of the loop.
I mean, you're not missing much. Not missing much at all. But when the 90s hit, you'll know boy bands.
The 90s. That sounds so far away. That's when they have flying cars, right? No, it's 2000.
Yeah, 2000.
That's very cool. Go with it.
Yeah.
So as our current DS106 student, how's the class going for you, Tiffany?
It's going well. It started out a lot easier and has progressively gotten more interesting and more challenging. But I like it. I really do like it. I was a computer science minor for a little bit, so like some of the stuff was a little bit easier to grasp than I guess somebody who wouldn't have had that sort of experience. But I love it. I think it's such a great way for me to like be creative and kind of take a breather from normal classes that I actually have to sit in and stuff like that.
Now you don't just have to say nice things because your teacher's in the room. This is your chance to be critical and say things, and it has no bearing on things like grades.
It has a little bearing. He's lying.
I was going to say.
No, it doesn't.
I really can't think of anything bad that anything I don't like about the class. I think it's because I'm interested in stuff like this, and like web design and HTML and all this fun stuff. I think that's why. I mean, I probably wouldn't have taken the class if I didn't think I'd enjoy it.
Right now, you've got this theme going right from the beginning with your princess. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So my blog is The Fandom Princess. Brooke Parker. She's my friend. She actually lives in the apartment building across the way, and she laughed when I first told her that that's what I was going to do. And I was like, well, I didn't want to just talk in my normal voice. That's really boring. It's online. I may as well create somebody like from the get-go. So I created this character, which is me, and I'm really big on Disney, so I was like, well, I may as well be a princess. And I live in this fantastical world where there's dragons and trolls and elves and witches and like people from all sorts of fandoms. There's even Jedis and stuff like that. Really weird that they're all together in one place, but I talk about my adventures like with each blog post, and I make up these really cool stories. I guess it helps that I'm a creative writing major and I wanna write for a living. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm glad nobody criticizes me for it, because then that would just make me feel really self-conscious. But I'm glad that it's positive.
Are you kidding? I fell in love with it. I mean, right from the get-go, like most of her posts start off with a little narrative, and I've been guessing that the characters that you introduce are they based upon real-life people and interactions?
Some of them are. The king and queen are obviously my parents, and I do have a sister named Courtney.
Right.
There was this one girl that I wasn't really feeling strongly about, but that's petty stuff. But I wrote her in there and I changed her name. She's like my little frenemy. She like represents the Twilight fan club, and I would never be a part of that one. Yeah, it's pretty. Some of it's based loosely off my life. The majority of it though is completely made up.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, it's really fun. That's one thing I've enjoyed seeing when students kind of take a character or a theme. So sometimes they just chose like things that they build all their assignments around. So I mean, you've done that a fair amount too.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I think it's great. I think it's a lot of fun. I have a great time sitting and typing, and sometimes I get stuck because I'm like, well, what can I talk about this week that I haven't already talked about? But I keep finding new things to bring up.
All right, and I see Nancy's dim camera in the room. I assume she's there. Can you hear us?
Sorry. Yeah, I can hear you guys. Sorry,
Okay.
Apogee was having issues with my life today, so.
That's okay. That's an ongoing thing. That's the local campus network, right?
Yeah. Crapagee is what we call it. Yeah, we couldn't get on our school newspaper website last week, and it was their fault. We're like, that's great.
Yeah, there was an issue with the blog, I think. It's probably Jim Groom's fault.
No,
Is there any connection? Is there any connection between the network being horrible and Jim being in another state somewhere?
No, I think the network is always horrible, isn't it?
It always is.
Oh,
And when you call them, they don't know what to do with a computer. They don't understand what computers are, basically. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, so this is the week, kind of the ramping up to doing more of the video story time, which comes for the next 2 weeks. And we like to start it by just this idea about trying to read more as we look into the way that we see movies and film. To kind of understand, obviously we enjoy movies for their entertainment value and dramatic value, but also like recognizing that just about everything you see in a production has been, like, I think, carefully thought out and plotted. Like, nothing is accidental, and things are really deliberate. So that's kind of the frame for this week's discussion, as well as anything that Nancy and Tiffany want to talk about. It has been a couple weeks since we. There she goes, probably because of the network. Because I've been traveling, we haven't had a chance to talk about it because we went through the audio.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. It happens.
Apogee.
We know it's crapagee. So maybe I'll ask if Ben and Daniel, if you guys have anything to say about this idea about movies and trying to understand more about all the little bits that go into creating good video that kind of would support the students as they do their work in creating their DS106 videos.
Ben, you want to go first?
Yeah, thanks.
Do you guys hear that? Don't throw the bus.
I call on Ben.
There's my bar, so you can just hop over it. Well, okay, so I guess we'll take it from two standpoints: the technical side, and then the I guess you could say the artistic or the narrative side. And as far as the technical side goes, don't get caught up with making it want to look perfect. I think video is one of the easiest to do because everyone's got devices like this, so we can shoot it, we can edit it with fancy apps and everything. But I think it's one of the hardest things to do because there's such just wealth of amazing work out on YouTube, out on Vimeo, especially out on Vimeo for the artistic stuff, but just the technical stuff that just looks really, really sharp. And even some of these videos that have tens or hundreds of thousands of views, where the content is questionable at best, it's still really sharp technically. Don't worry about that. Just get something out there, put it out there. I do it all the time on my channel, especially for the Daily Create stuff. I look back on some of it, and it's like, oh, that's terrible, that's horrible. I can do that so much better now. But it doesn't matter because I'm a big firm believer in the process and being able to show that. And then as far as the narrative side goes, I think I said this once before, stick with what you know, with what you're passionate about, because then that'll come out. And that's what I've been doing with the video story problems at the K-12 level, is like, I'm a really curious guy. And when I go out with my kids, we see something, we ask questions, things like that. It's like, okay, let's stick with that. Let's roll with that. If you're somebody that, your passion is voiceover character narration, who's the wonderful, her name is slipping my memory right now.
Amber?
The wonderful DS106 student right now. Who is it? Amber, right. Yeah. So she does that just amazing voice talent. Just go with that, and that passion will come out. So have a lot of fun with it. I mean, that's what I did this time last year with the Back to the Future video. When people started doing the let's go ahead and turn everything into the silent film era sort of thing. I'm a huge fan of 80s pop culture and movies, so I did that, and I put together a lot of just silly stuff, but it was fun for me to do.
You're being modest. It was for Nancy and Tiffany. That's an assignment that will come up next week, where you take like a modern movie and you edit it to make it look like it's a silent movie. So you remove the sound, you turn it black and white, you introduce the dialogue as the title cards, and you try to emulate the look and feel of a silent movie, which you guys saw a little bit of in that Charlie Chaplin audio assignment. And you can do it pretty simply, as many people done. Ben produced one that actually got picked up by a UK tabloid.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that is it probably wouldn't have gotten picked up on its own, but the fact that ds106 was doing it together, right? So they said, oh my gosh, here's this really cool little sort of thing that's happening over here, and so mine was on there, and there was one that did Pulp Fiction, silent version of Pulp Fiction. That was really funny. I want to say it was the conversation with the Royale with cheese.
Yeah.
And there were a couple others in there too. And I think that's really what was so cool about that, was they're all sort of playing about the same thing. And I was actually thinking it would be a lot of fun. I don't know, did anyone see the video? This was probably back early at the beginning of the month. The video interview between Mila Kunis and that reporter from BBC.
That was brilliant.
That was brilliant, right? So the idea is these actresses and actors, they do these media junkets, and they spend all day in a room, and they just get interviewed, slammed over and over and over again. By the end of the day, they're just like, I know the questions. Let me just speak into the microphone and give it to you. And here's this guy from BBC. He's like junior cub reporter, right? And he's asking all these silly questions like, what was it like to be ugly for your movie? He's like, because you're so gorgeous. And it's hilarious. I threw the link up in the chat. Go watch it. I think it'd be hilarious.
Was he a Redditor?
What's that?
Was he a Redditor? Because he sounded like one.
I don't know. All I know is it like seemed like it eventually got to the point where he was like asking her out, basically. It's like, yeah, let's go to the pub and everything. But I think it'd be really hilarious to like throw a group assignment around that, like chop up the video and have the same guy like interviewing all of these Hollywood movie stars, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and everything. At one point asking Arnold, because you're so gorgeous. But finding things like that, and I think that's really what worked for that assignment, was the fact that so many people could latch on to that and go, I identify with this, I can do this. And that's where DS106 comes in. The one-offs are really nice.
Yeah, and a key for that one is actually just the idea of the choice of the movie. Like, what is something like you did Back to the Future as a retro styled video. I mean, just that, like the context of it. And Nancy just put in the chat that she wanted to do Magic Mike, which I think you did as a previous visual assignment, right?
For two of them, I retitled it twice, and that's like my least favorite movie ever, but it was
so bad. So bad.
It's like bad stripping.
Yeah.
With
bad
ugly
stripping,
men.
bad acting. I wanted that girl to just go away. I was like,
and then there's like a plot, but it's not really a plot. It's like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Right. And then of course my favorite part is you found a penis font.
Oh, I've had that for a while. There are other ones.
I just said that on the live video, by the way. So, that is one assignment that a lot of students have done the last couple of years. It's a lot of fun. And
you haven't seen the one I did this week? That's pretty bad. Like pretty inappropriate.
It's pretty inappropriate. Good. I
can't
wait.
redid Reddit as Chucky Monster from Avenue Q, and he's where the internet is for porn comes from.
Awesome.
That's like my favorite Broadway show.
Awesome stuff. So I'll call on Daniel now. Talk about anything you would say about the idea about like examining movies.
Well, this is the one area of DS106 that I struggled the most with, was the video. And I'm not really sure why. I've been trying to put a finger on it, but I can't figure it out. But what I did do and what ended up working pretty well with it was examining each of my scenes when I was doing the video and asking myself, how does this advance my story and what am I trying to say with it? And that helped me pick the right, or as close to the right scene as I could for that specific video, whether it was a 5-minute video or a 30-second video. and kind of analyzing almost each frame, but not quite how that was advancing my story. You might want to do that, you might not. It's up to you, but that's one approach for anybody who might struggle with it to take. And it's very tedious and it's going to be time-consuming to do it that way, but it could be beneficial. I did the silent film thing too. I did Inception. I did the ending of Inception. And I changed the story of it so it wasn't the same, it wasn't the same ending. I kind of changed how it was portrayed with the title cards and, gave it a different feel. So it wasn't quite as the film was. And then I also did, I'm trying to think, I did a Psych montage. You guys watch Psych? Where Sean is always giving Gus the nicknames when he's introducing himself to whoever it is they're talking to, and I put all of, I grabbed a whole bunch of them, and I just stuck them all in like a 5-minute video of all of the different nicknames that they did. And trying to find a good place to cut in between it was difficult. But really just examine each scene, examine, is this too long, is it too short, and how is this advancing my story?
Well,
I can't even come...
That's okay. Oh, no, your Inception video was just inspiring, and I know you put a lot into it, so to say that, video is a challenge, I, look at that and say, what?
I just don't enjoy it as much as I do some of the other stuff, so I guess it's more of a mental challenge to keep doing it for me.
And a piece, again, for Tiffany and Nancy is it's... video is not necessarily about putting yourself on the screen, and if there are any of those assignments, feel free to use characters. And also, one thing that's really hard is to make them short and tight, especially when you get into editing. So do not be afraid to be really cutting things and go minimalistic. I know sometimes when people get into their movie editors, they start throwing every transition in because it's kind of cool to have spin things and fades and whatnot. But when you watch a lot of cinema, you'll notice that there's very few transitions used. If anything, they're just cuts. And just the art of learning different kinds of cuts between scenes and camera shots is something that you get to do this week in the I don't know if you guys have started this one where you take a scene from I had a couple playlists of famous movie scenes, and the idea is you first watch it with the sound off and just pay attention to the camera work and what is it doing visually, and then you turn off the visuals and just listen to the sound and do like we did for the audio, listen for all the sound effects, the ambient sound, and then put them together and see what you notice. I don't know if you started that part yet.
Not that. We did something similar in my film studies class I'm in right now. We analyzed the shower scene from Psycho. Yeah. I think on the DVD it had the option you can watch it with music and then without music. So we did something like that, and then he was like, well, why do you think Alfred Hitchcock, did it both ways? And I can't remember the one he used in the actual movie. I think with music, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's
yeah.
Creepy.
It was really creepy, yeah. But without the music, it's much more eerie. I was like, oh, this is gross. This is giving me chills and stuff. Because then you just are left up to imagine what it'll sound like. It's just you hear that knife going in. I'm just like, not about that. That's ugh.
And speaking of that, on my flight back, I saw the film Hitchcock, which was really enjoyable, and a lot of that was about what it took to get past the movie approval board, because the whole movie was kind of like an over the top thing for the time about what could go into a movie, and he was able to push some boundaries to that. But the shower scene, combining the potential for nudity and violence. I don't know how he got it past the approval board.
Didn't they use chocolate syrup for the blood in that?
I don't know.
I think that's what I heard. I've done I'm a theater person, so I do I know how to do theater special effects. So this whole movie thing is weird for me because I don't watch movies really. I'm a live theater person.
See, I love movies. I really want to be a screenwriter, so I figured this week would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'd like to see a lot of the more minimalistic things coming out, because when I was taking it, everybody was trying to cram as much as they could into all of their videos to try and tell the story. And that, sometimes that's a great thing. Sometimes the overload of information really is a good thing. But I'd like to see maybe a shift to the minimalistic and see people kind of leave the interpretation of the story to the imagination. So challenge, minimalistic.
Yeah. Ooh. How do you do that?
How do you do minimalistic?
Yeah, how do you like leave? It's a trick to know how much to leave open for a suggestion.
It really is.
It's an art. I don't know the answer myself. I definitely don't know the answer.
I don't know. You guys have to figure that out. I don't have an answer either.
Well, and for Daniel maybe to talk about, like, I mean, there's a bit of getting over the hump of the mechanics of it, you know. And for some people, they've done some video work, and some people they're just like learning the ins and outs of the software. And I hope that doesn't become a barrier or hurdle for the students now.
Yeah, you know, it's actually not a very steep learning curve to figure out a lot of the software that we're using. It's very similar to Audacity. If you're familiar with Audacity, you know, chopping the movies up, moving things around, it's kind of has the same mechanic and the same feel to it. It's just using video clips instead. And really, you shouldn't be discouraged by it. It's pretty easy to pick up on if you haven't done it already. Just take the time, you know, set some time aside to play with it, even if it's with something that you don't intend on publishing.
And also the knowing how to do things like separate the audio from the video, so you can like put a different audio track in, and usually you can layer audio. I'm not too sure about Movie Maker about having multiple audio tracks. I know iMovie you can.
Yeah, I don't know about Movie Maker, but I know in I think I used VideoPad. It's very easy to separate the audio and the video because actually as soon as you load it in, it does it for you. And then you're just muting channels and moving things around, and you can even chop the sound up and move it to a different portion of the video within VideoPad, so you don't have to do a lot of that. You can add your own track in and overlay it, and you can change the different sound levels at different portions in the audio to go with whatever, you know, frames you're using. I've never used Movie Maker because I'm not an Apple person. But from what I understand, it's fairly simple and straightforward.
Well, you mean iMovie?
Oh yeah, iMovie. Sorry, what did I say?
Movie
Maker.
I meant iMovie. I've never used it, but from what I understand, it's pretty intuitive and easy too.
Yeah, well, I know iMovie pretty well inside and out. There's a lot of other people in DS106. Movie Maker, I can only make wild guesses at. VideoPad, that's a shareware, or I can't remember.
It's an open source thing, yeah.
Okay.
You can just download it off. It's the same. I keep getting pop-ups on my computer telling me to download it again because I took it off. Yeah, I guess I missed a file somewhere. It's open source. It's free. It's fantastic. It's my pitch for it.
That's cool. It's good to know.
To check too. So.
All right. Keep those checks coming. So maybe I'll ask Tiffany first, and then Nancy maybe harder because she's not a movie person. But is there a favorite movie for you, and why?
Well, probably everybody is gonna laugh, but my favorite movie is Titanic.
It's cute. I actually have never seen it.
Wait, what?
I've never. Okay, I'm the person.
Whoa.
I know. Okay, I've never seen Star Wars either.
Okay, see, I was just going to say, I met a person last week who has never seen Star Wars, and I think I'm a
What's
little more
wrong with you
about
people?
I just don't watch movies.
Go
I don't
watch
have
it.
an attention span.
But
No, go watch it.
Star Wars is a classic. You have to watch Star Wars, Nancy, please.
No.
Okay, just you have to. But I don't know. I'm a big romantic, and I think that's, and I like, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio. But I remember seeing it at like a pretty early age, and I don't know, there's just something about it, and I kept rewatching it, and finally I knew the lines for it, and I think I didn't like how everybody died, that, you know, who I wanted to live. But I don't know, you know, you sometimes have a favorite, but you can't exactly pin why it's a favorite. This is the only case that I can't pin why it's a favorite. Like, I can say Coldplay is my favorite because I love their music, and I love Chris Martin, and I love this song, and this song, and this song. But as far as why Titanic is, I don't know.
Well,
I always loved it.
Maybe not favorite. Maybe like a movie that you felt really does the story part well, you know.
I have one of those.
Oh, you had Nancy.
Okay, I really like J. Edgar. I know, like, no one else that I've talked to really likes that movie. I don't know if anyone has seen it, actually, because it was really... It's really good. And it does show that Armie Hammer does look really ugly, though, in old age makeup. But, like, I'm a gender studies person, so I thought it was really fascinating as, like, looking at, like, sexuality back with J. Edgar's time, and also because J. Edgar Hoover's freaking crazy. Like, he's nuts. So I thought it was really interesting, but my parents were like, I didn't get the point of that movie.
Wasn't it just supposed to be, like, an autobiography?
Yeah, but I, like, read into it more from a queer history standpoint, which other people I know did.
Oh.
Because it was Dustin Lance Black wrote it, and he wrote Milk, which I also really liked.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Like... Oh, go ahead.
No, you first. You're sorry.
Well, I guess then, as far as a movie that does well at telling the story, has anyone seen Slumdog Millionaire?
Yes.
Yes.
Danny Boyle? Okay. I thought that one was well done. The cinematography for that was great. And I think he took a story that, like classic, you know, someone who you would think would succeeds and gets, you know, through all the trials of his life, like, you know, gets somewhere that is happy. And, you know, you're rooting for him the whole time. You just feel so bad for him and everybody in his life, and you just feel for the character so well. I guess that's a really good example, I suppose.
And the gentleman, you guys have any, like, maybe not only story, but, you know, like, would be a good demonstration of some of the things we talk about when we say reading movies, in terms of, you know, the camera work and all those ideas.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I just freaked out for a second.
Go ahead.
There.
Come on back.
Okay. So in my film studies class, we're actually studying Sofia Coppola and all of her films, like Marie Antoinette and Virgin Suicides, and Somewhere, I think, was one of her other big ones. And so we've been, like, marking how you know it's a Coppola film when you're watching it. And I guess some of them are, like, major themes that she uses, like, for them, where she'll, like, keep the camera on one subject for so long that you're sitting there, like, when is this gonna, like, this one shot, when is it gonna be over? Or how she'll have scenes where she's not even interested in, like, what's going on. Like, she's more interested in the actual character. Like, with Marie Antoinette, she, like, wasn't preoccupied with the historical thing at all, as we can all tell, because the history, I think, was completely off in that movie. But I think she was more interested in, like, Marie Antoinette as, like, a teenager. So, like, angsty teens as a theme. But yeah, that's my little freak out Sofia Coppola moment.
That's cool. So, no. Since you're taking that class, I mean, this week should be a breeze. I would recommend if you to check out Amber's. She did a breakdown of a 1.5 minute scene from Pulp Fiction.
Okay.
And the stuff she noticed in there is like a model almost for how I'd like to see some of these assignments done.
Okay.
Can I have one more really quick?
Yeah.
I'm also really my all-time favorite movie is really Enchanted, which I know sounds really stupid, but if you look at it more, it's got a lot of adult humor in it, and it's got a lot of references to all the other Disney movies. Like, it basically makes fun of them. I don't know. You've seen that?
Enchanted?
Enchanted, yeah.
Enchanted.
Oh, maybe that's why I didn't like it.
I just thought it was really neat, technically, and just how, like, I was like, oh, that's, like, Little Mermaid reference, or...
And that's always interesting in cartoons or movies pitched at kids, the way they also can deftly weave in some nods to the adults in the audience and having almost like two levels of dialogue.
And I mean, it plays to the stereotypes. It has the dumb prince, but it's just different. I don't know.
You know, a really good movie for camera angles would be pretty much any of the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yes.
Because you had to take them walking and walking and walking and talking and make it interesting. And I think he did solely with the use of the camera angles and how he shot it, especially in the newest one, The Hobbit. I don't know if you guys have seen that yet. That is fantastically shot. Aside from the actual acting and the soundtrack, the camera angles and the way that he shoots the entire thing is phenomenal. That is a great example. Any of the first three or The Hobbit are great ones to watch and just go, okay, and take notes from that on how to do that kind of thing.
Speaking of
he does a good job. Oh, go ahead.
No, speaking of camera angles, the one of the clips I have on this week's assignment is this montage of Stanley Kubrick one-shot perspective, and when you see how many times he uses that in like The Shining down the hallway, whoever put those together is basically doing it's almost like one of these supercuts. He's also got one on Tarantino's the way he uses the up angles a lot.
That's like how the Hunger Games used cuts to like make the violence there, but not as graphic as in the books.
Yeah.
So you mean it suggests the violence without showing it?
Yeah, it kind of shows quick cuts and flashes. Like in the books, it's pretty graphic.
It's pretty gruesome.
Good stuff. So Ben, besides Back to the Future, what movies do you like?
What movies do I like? It was just interesting listening to all the movies and everything, and I actually the Lord of the Ring movies were fantastic, and I haven't seen The Hobbit yet. I had heard plenty of mixed reviews on actually a lot of the camera work and everything on that, and the way some of the scenes were set up. But it's nice to hear a good ringing endorsement. So that'll help me see it in another light. I've been really hooked on documentaries lately. Maybe because they're cheaper to rent on the iTunes store. Because my wife and I are lazy and we don't actually, do Netflix and pay for stuff monthly or go to the store anymore and pay the cheap fees. It's just, oh yeah, that's good. But I really dig the. We finally got around to watching Catfish the other day. And I love the idea of that because ostensibly the whole thing was real. It wasn't set up or anything, but it still had this feeling. And I don't know if that's, to the credit of the filmmakers themselves of like, this is a true story, but, we're going to spin a yarn just a little bit for you and bring you along and make you feel as though it's real. And it doesn't matter whether it was a setup or not. It felt real, but it was really cool. What was really neat was then afterwards going to the website, and the website's still up there, and you could still interact and sort of poke into that little world. So I really appreciate that sort of narrative storytelling where there are elements of truth, and there are obviously some fabrications, but you got to pay very close attention, and even if you are, you're still not quite sure. So that's what I like. And I watched. What else did we watch? Oh, the Being Elmo documentary, which if you haven't seen, you should go watch. In light of all of the awful stuff that happened with Kevin Clash recently, the story itself is really touching and really kind of powerful. So yeah, go get some documentaries, and just sit down and watch some documentaries because there's a lot of fun.
Can you say anything about like what's the different style between documentary filmmaking and cinematic filmmaking?
Well, I think and it depends on the documentarian because you can watch documentaries. You can watch documentaries like Catfish and like Being Elmo, and you can tell there's a very strong narrative there. There isn't a whole lot of embellishment. It's like, I'm just going to tell this story, and there are some events in the story that may seem a little more fantastical than others. Maybe a little bit of revision on the part of the writer, but you can just see that story. You don't really have to do too much for that story to come out. Whereas you look at some other documentarians where Michael Moore is one of those cases where his early documentaries were heralded as being amazing, and now he's kind of the guy. It's like, oh, he's going to work this one angle right, and so now I can't necessarily trust what he's going to be saying. I'm going to have to put on my political lens to look at that. But I think documentary storytelling across the board still is just really nice to get into that, and you don't have to worry about the story. Whereas, a traditional movie, sometimes the story gets in the way, right? Like we're making this, like The Hobbit. Case in point, here's this book which is very small, and one of the knocks that it took were a lot of people, and again, take this with a grain of salt because I haven't seen it, but a lot of people saying, you've got this one book and you've stretched it out over 3 movies, right? So there's got to be some padding in there, and what are you going to have to put in there that's going to detract from the story and make it sort of sensational? Even movies that actually are based on real life events. The woman whose name I can't remember now, Julia Roberts, PG&E, the power company over in California.
Yeah.
Aaron Brockovich. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Internet. Aaron Brockovich. It's a true story, right? Well, yes, but it's not a documentary. It's not necessarily like we just want to tell you the story. We want to make money, right? So there's going to be some sensationalistic moments within that. So I think sometimes it's really nice to just get that balance and spend some time in the real world of video making just to see those different narratives and how they play out. And people just saying, I want to tell you the story. I don't care if it makes a lot of money or if it makes me popular. I want to tell this story because I think it means a lot to me.
It makes me I want to check and see if we have some assignments already in the mix, or we should add some that kind of lend themselves to doing a documentary video project in ds106.
There is one. And my wife actually did one last summer. It was your day in 60 seconds.
Oh yeah.
And you carry your camera around and you get 60 seconds worth of video throughout the day. And there's actually an app called, was it 1 second a day or something like that?
Yeah.
That will help you take 1 second. So it kind of needs a year to actually build it up. But but there are some assignments out there and some stuff you can do to have fun with it without sitting down and putting together this monumental narrative that takes place over several days or weeks.
Right. No, thanks a lot, Ben. I appreciate the idea of looking more at documentaries. And there's all those movies probably it said on Aaron Brockovich, loosely based on a real story.
Right.
That loose. Yeah.
I guess I'm coming at this from gender studies again. I'm really into queer film, but a lot of stuff gets censored out of them to get played for the mainstream. And I can go into theory about that, but I won't. But my favorite, I keep thinking of I Love You, Philip Morris. Has anyone seen that? It's basically one of the best movies I've ever seen.
That's on my list of things
oh my
to
god,
see.
It's such a mind fuck. It's so good. But it wasn't really released in America because they're it's too gay. There's 2 gay men and they love each other and they're in a movie together, and there's also prison, which is not, and it's based on a true story. It's actually a really cool story. I did a bit about it for my senior project recently, so I got really into it. But it wasn't really released in theaters here, and then I just watched it again. It was on Logo a couple weeks ago, and I was really excited. But then I was watching the cuts, and I was like, wait, they edited this. This annoys me. Because the way that they have to cut stuff for TV is really interesting, too.
Oh, hey, guys, I don't want to interrupt real quick and kind of mess up, but I got to run. It's been fun. You all are awesome. Great stuff. I'll see you on the internet.
Right back at you.
Hey, thanks, Daniel. Good to see you.
Nice to meet you. Hi.
This is great. I mean, just between Tiffany and Nancy, there's a lot of movie expertise here in the room, and I think I have a long list of movies I need to watch because I'm behind.
Yeah.
On this.
I'll post a link to the senior project article in a second.
Oh, that's cool. Thanks, Nancy.
But I read into the original story, and the original story is a bit more amazing.
Well, very cool. This is the week then of looking at movies and thinking about what works in the story elements and some of those techniques that are used in movies.
Using the internet, I just use.
I hear sound.
Me too.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. It happens. But also, these are things I want you to keep in mind as you start working on your own assignments too. But again, for Tiffany and Nancy, feel free to break the rules as you go along. That's what ds106 is about. I think you guys know it by now.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to thank you guys for coming in, Nancy and Tiffany and Ben and Daniel, who's gone, and Todd, who was here and came and went with his pirate hat. Always great to have all the current students in DS106. I'm getting slapped on Twitter for saying former now.
We're going to be former in like.
I know we'll former soon.
No, you won't. I mean, you take your blogs with you, and you do with it whatever you want. And
very true.
And you come back and do daily crates or mock me on Twitter or whatever. So
I've got a question about an assignment. Like, I'm just trying to think this out. If I could use it for an assignment, could we maybe create a movie one that talks about how, like, Moneyball was created into a movie? And I read that book, and that book is just a bunch of numbers. It's a bunch of stats, basically. But it was like a narrative, and I'm like, wait, how did they do that again? I if that would lend its way to an assignment.
Say more. Like how books get to movies, or
yeah, because like that book is just, it's so dense. I actually haven't finished it yet, but it's baseball. It's a book of baseball statistics and formulas. But then it became this great movie.
Well, I guess you could try doing a video assignment, like take something that's published that's totally not cinematic, or just it could be like a non-fictional reference book. Or what would be the movie made out of, a dictionary or something like that?
That'd be cool.
Or a recipe book. So yeah, could be something like that. Yeah, make an assignment. Interesting idea.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's a wrap. Unless anybody else has anything to say, you guys have room to still complain, but.
Grumble.
Nothing to complain about.
Yeah, there really isn't.
All right, well, Tiffany, Nancy, you guys are awesome. Ben, you're always awesome. I love you, man.
Right back at you, Alan.
All right, give my best to your lovely family.
Okay, bye.
All right, see you guys later.